Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 157 of the Irocknitters podcast. It is Chatting with Friends. We're back with new friends, and this is my friend Diane. She is a local designer, knitwear designer, and teacher from the opposite side of the Twin Cities, but you actually live over in Wisconsin. And so for those of you who don't know, because some of you aren't even in the U.S., Minnesota is bordered Minneapolis is right on the border. Minneapolis-St. Paul is kind of right on the border of Wisconsin. She lives right over the border. So she had a huge trek to get out here today. Didn't you?
Yeah. It was a little bit.
So I met Diane a number of years ago, and I have a story to tell about her that she doesn't know, and it's very flattering.
Oh.
Diane reached out to me when I first started designing. I wasn't doing a podcast yet. And she said, welcome. It is so nice to have new young people in the industry. And I'm so excited about your designs and what you're doing. And it still to this day means the world to me that you did that for me, because this industry is a little competitive and can be a little hard to break into. And you reached out, you sent me an email. I probably still have it somewhere. Either that or I printed it out and I put it in my mother file, because I have a mother file where people send you nice things and I keep them. The things your mother should say to you. Right? The things your mother would say to you, but other people do. And yeah, and you had been designing for much longer than I had. And you just reached out and you were like, I'm so glad you're here. And we had a little back and forth conversation, and it was lovely. I'm sure you don't remember doing that, but it proves who you are. Like, it just says a lot about who she is. So I was a little nervous about asking Diane to come because she lives so far away, and I would have met her on her side of the city somewhere. But I also taught for you kind of at Thunder.
At the Yarn Nook there,
they had you had reached out to me, and I drove over that was in Hudson, Wisconsin, just right across the border. For people who are local, they'll understand this. The river divides the two, and you just go across the river and it's right there. But
I remembered you were doing the 50 shades of shawls and sweaters, and I had this little Yarn Nook started, and I had regular customers coming, and Hudson was ready for a little yarn shop, we thought, and a lot of people came and were interested. So I reached out and said, "Can you do this?" It was Thunder Willow Community Arts. That's what her name was. The owner. And then when I started, I took over managing the day hours. That opportunity presented itself. I was teaching around a lot of different yarn shops and art centers and things, and then this place was like 4 miles away from my house only. And mostly people wanted nighttime and weekend classes, so I had day hours to fill, and they needed a manager, and I said I can do that, And then she realized I could work my way around a computer, so I started scheduling classes, and then we started talking about the yarn and my passion for knitting and crocheting. And she decided that she wanted to make a little portion of it be a yarn shop, and give me a chance. And that was always a dream. So we did it for a while. It was growing and growing and getting.
What year was that about? Do you think?
When was it? Probably, it was probably 2017, 18.
Okay, I think
because
they had like jewelry in the little shop up front, and then
she made.
And there was painting classes and pottery, right? The building was just full of spaces to make.
It was her dream, her childhood dream, but she also had her other business, and things were happening where she had to let something go, and so it had to close, and it was just before COVID hit and everything shut down too. So
which that would have been 2020. It would have been the few years before that. And so you brought in yarns. You contacted yarn companies and brought in.
We started with Plymouth. She actually did it. I had cold feet I said, we have to do this big or not do it at all, And she said, well, I'm going to call it. She found out the rep's name, and she got a hold of him. She goes, he's coming tomorrow. So if you have any input, you better get here. Yeah, I have input. So that's how it started. She just went for it. And it was growing. We had a regular group of people who came Thursday and Friday. And then so when it closed, I had all these sad people. And so I reached out to Amy at Darn It Anyway and Elizabeth at Knitting from the Heart. And I said, I have all these knitters and this is no longer going to be happening. And they said, come on in, come on in. So they were welcomed everybody with open arms. And so the group kind of split into two areas. And most of a handful of ladies didn't want to drive. That's why it made it really special for them to have such a close place to go. But,
Because how far would it be to Stillwater from Hudson or to?
I think it's about 10 miles.
Yeah, it's not far.
Each
but
place is about.
But you got to cross the river and go to Minnesota. And,
they didn't
it can
want
seem
to
like
do
it.
that. But I met so many fabulous people with that experience, and I still am really close friends with quite a few people that I see all the time.
So let's start with how you learned to knit. Tell us how you learned to knit.
Grandma. I was a little kid and I just watched her and I was fascinated with the knitting and I just couldn't keep my hands off of it. You know? And she decided finally that I was old enough, probably when I was around 7. And she taught me the basics. I know she taught me double points because she taught me how to make mittens.
Oh, wow.
Pretty early on,
Wow.
But she never used a pattern, so I didn't know what patterns were till I was somewhere in my teen years. I was kind of oblivious to
So she would just kind of tell you how many stitches to cast on, maybe?
Yeah, at first. Yeah. And then we would, make things to fit people.
Well, and patterns weren't as available, for sure.
Yeah.
When they were younger and learning, there just weren't as many. Magazines would have patterns sometimes, and then people would pass those around. But
she came from Europe, from Ukraine.
Yep.
And she knit continental style, and that's how I learned. And
did she crochet too, or just mostly a knitter?
She must have.
Yeah.
I don't remember her specifically teaching me that, but I learned from someplace, and it probably was her. Yeah. Because I learned to crochet at around the same time.
Yeah, my dad's grandma crocheted, and we had a blanket, and I didn't realize she was really a quilter, but I didn't realize until years later after she had passed that there was a crochet blanket, and I was like, Grandma Schmidt crocheted? I wouldn't never have known that, right? But I do think many of those women did one or the other. Or sewed some of them, because my mom was much more a quilter. Yeah, I don't remember the first time I met you, like when we ran into each other, but I
do.
Okay. Well, great.
I do.
Tell me.
I heard you before I saw you.
Imagine that, everybody. Imagine that.
No, and I mean that in a good way, because it was like joy coming down the stairs.
I am loud and proud all the time. I wish I was a teacher. And I was trained as a teacher, and I just use my teacher voice all the time. Well, people often have to say to me, my husband will be like, could you just, and in my ears, it's not as loud as it is to other people. So
no, you weren't
Where
loud,
were we?
But you came, I was at Lila and Claudine's, I was working there.
Okay.
And you were there for the first time. So that, it was full of artwork.
Oh, it was
so beautifully decorated.
Yeah, and the tiles.
It was amazing to be there. Yeah.
Coming down those back stairs.
Yeah. And you were coming down the stairs commenting, and I said, oh, there's a fun person coming. And then you came into view with that gorgeous Fair Isle sweater. And I went, oh, I need to meet this person. Do you know what the sweater I mean? The orange. It's orange and it has all these it's cotton.
Yeah, it's cotton.
Beautiful colors. I went, I love that.
Yeah.
So
I should get that out.
I remembered
on my
your
shelf
name
and wear it
immediately, and so I said I'm gonna get to know her, and I wanna knit with her.
Lila and Claudine's. did you do any training in knitting? Like, did you go to school and have any art classes or fabric or anything like that? Me neither.
Not really, no.
I sewed a lot when I was little, and so I learned about pattern making and sizing, right?
Yeah.
Like you did, you know, making sizes and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was just self-taught stuff. I really want to learn more about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you always have a dream to do design? Was it a thing? Yeah.
Well, it's weird because that's all I knew how to work with yarn. I didn't know, it didn't occur to me until I went to an event after I was done with my printing job that I had for 20 some years in different one place, and then I worked a few years prior to that in a couple of different places. I always dreamt about, well, I'll go and work part-time at different yarn shops, you know.
Yeah.
And then I found that you could do that if you were teaching. You could go and, you know, sign up to teach classes at all different places. But I started by going to an event they had at Three Kittens on a Friday, and I didn't know anybody. I had been working a second shift at this printing company. Yeah, and so I was always the opposite. So I didn't have any knitting friends around. Yeah. So I just said, I'm going to start getting out there. And so I went to this thing, and Charlie, who is still a dear friend, she came up to me and said, "You're all alone. Come and sit with us." And so I did.
I love people like that.
She's the sweetest person. And so I sat at their table, and everybody did, this is not criticizing, but all they did was exchange patterns. And I went, "Don't you guys ever knit here?" It was supposed to be a knitting thing.
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, no, I need that pattern and that pattern and that pattern." And I'm like, well, wow.
Right?
So there's a need for that, you know?
Yes.
But I had never worked with patterns before. I mean, patterns that other people wrote up. I mean, I did make a few sweaters when I was a teenager, you know?
Yeah.
But I just like to play with the yarn and come up with my own. I knit a lot of scarves for a long time, and then other things, you know, little accessory things.
So that was that after you retired that you went to that, or were you still working?
It was after I retired.
Okay, and when would that have been roughly?
I wrote it down somewhere.
Okay.
2008. I was
okay.
done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I wandered. I went there. I don't know if I can't remember if I went to another store, but I heard about Lila and Claudine's.
Yeah.
And they were just opening, and it's really fabulous. You got to go.
Yeah.
So I popped in there one day, and I went, "This is great."
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with everything about it. And so the next day I went back there, and I just couldn't stay away. You know, I was like, and I started opening boxes and tagging yarn and putting things on shelves. And then they called me the next day and said, "You have to work here." I said, "Okay."
And this is a shop that's no longer open. So for those of you, many people know that, but she did retire and it closed. But it started out in the basement of a place, and then they eventually moved to have the upstairs and the downstairs. So they had 2 floors.
I worked there for pretty close to 3 years, and I did a lot of different things, including, you know, scheduling and that kind of stuff. But it was really fun. I enjoyed that, but I kind of wanted to do more, get out there more. Mm-hmm. So I started going to other stores and teaching, and then I loaded too much up on myself, so I had to pare down. I was every day of the week I was teaching somewhere, and I was working at 7 different places at the same time, and it was too much.
You still kind of work at a lot of the places. Like, I see your name out there a lot. Like, don't you feel like you travel quite a bit and teach at all the places?
At Knitting from the Heart and Darn It Anyway pretty regularly. And then I taught a few things at Amazing Threads.
Yeah.
I did their retreat, and but that's about it right now. I'm concentrating a little bit on writing patterns.
But we both taught at Yarn Over last year.
Yeah,
and that was
fun.
A big deal.
That was a big deal because it was a bucket list.
They don't let us do They don't have very many local folk,
No.
and they, and we're here. But
yeah.
But
so
yeah,
maybe
so
next
we
year
both
again.
got to, yeah.
You never know.
I know. I keep applying.
Okay.
So you worked at Lila and Claudine's for a few years, and then you started teaching more, and then that's when the Hudson Place kind of started, maybe got in the mix there.
Yeah.
So you had a story about
your
friend there.
Excuse me. That became, once we started bringing yarn in and thinking about it as a little shop, I needed to spend more time there, and so I slowly stopped working in other places. But one of the things we did was Barbara, one of my dear friends, that she was instrumental in helping that place go, because I would say, Barbara, here, learn Intarsia. And she would go home and learn it and come back, and then we would schedule a class. And she was just amazing. She just did all these projects, double knitting, Intarsia, entrelac. I mean, everything. It was just amazing. So I
And so she would teach it?
Yeah, and then she would teach the classes. And she eventually focused on sock knitting. And so she became the sockologist, And
yeah.
she teaches now at Knitting from the Heart.
Oh, okay.
Regular classes.
Okay.
There. But I had to say something about her, because it wouldn't have been as fun as it turned out to be had she not been that involved. So I have to say thanks.
Yeah. So when do you think you published your first pattern? Was it like right away when you retired, or had you done any pattern?
Well, Ravelry started
2008.
Came along in 2008, and I started putting patterns up there. And the funny thing about that was, I started writing notes, and I thought they were just for me. I didn't know that the world could see everything, so I was writing some sassy stuff. And then somebody answered one of my notes, and I went, "Oh my God, people can see all this stuff." So
yeah, because we were so unaware. Like I try to tell people there weren't PDFs. Right. There was no PDF for
Right.
I was taking patterns, printed out patterns in sleeves and sticking pictures on them for years when we lived in Virginia, because I was teaching felting when we lived out there. We were out there for 5 years, and with my husband's job, and I wasn't teaching at the time, and so I would go door to door with these sleeves and have 10 of them, and they'd buy 6 or whatever for $2 each and sell them for $4, right?
Yep.
And so, and when Ravelry, it was just like this
amazing thing. Yeah. It's really a great thing. When they just said, "Here we are, you can do this," I learned how to post my patterns up there.
Yeah.
And then they allowed you to sell them. Yeah. It was about a year later, I think. So I said, "Well, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, I know.
Take advantage of that. And
see
if I can. But most of my patterns are free. And then when I launch a pattern, I usually put it for free for a time, and then I charge for it.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because I find this really fascinating that you have this way that you put your patterns out there, that you will often offer your patterns, and we are going to look at some of her patterns, but you offer your patterns for free, and they often jump to the front page of Ravelry on the Hot right now, because people love a good free pattern, and the downloads go click, 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 right? And so then you have to have ways, and we were talking about this before we started, but you have to have ways to make yourself noticed on Ravelry, because the top 10 designers are always in the Hot right now. And if you publish on a day that one of them puts out a new pattern, nothing against them, but like Andrea Mowry, Stephen West, Jahohi Locatelli, Caitlin Hunter, I could go on, but there are 10 Marie Green, people who are putting out patterns that are purchased by everyone every time. They have huge followings, they have brands, and so to get your pattern noticed, you don't want to be 100 patterns down on the list.
Right.
So did you do that right away? Did you put your patterns out for free right away, do you think?
I didn't sell patterns for a long time. Yeah, they were free, just free. And then someone said, well, you should charge $3 or something for them. And I thought, well, okay, I'll do that. You know, they didn't allow that at first.
Right, yeah.
So I thought of it as, you know, I really like this pattern, this scarf or this hat or something. And I want to put it somewhere where I can get at that information again. So they allowed you to use it like your own personal storage kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was wonderful. But like I said, I didn't realize that everybody can see everything you put up there just about.
Yeah.
Until now they made that special notes thing.
Yeah.
But so, and then when I started slowly just putting a few up there, you know, for sale.
They make it pretty easy to load a pattern, right?
It is.
Almost, I have a little bit of a bias about that because I think they make it a little too easy for a non-designer to just throw a free pattern up there. And then we as teachers often can get the questions of, what does this say? What does this mean? This has a mistake in it, right? And I just said on Wednesday, was this a free pattern? Because it was so poorly written, and she's knitting a baby sweater, and it was just a mess. And you know, and I'm like, I just see a lot of that because I teach so many beginners. And because of the library system over here hires me to teach beginning knitting over and over and over again. And so I have been doing that for years, and they get so frustrated when they can't read a pattern, they don't get a thing. But if you're just randomly going out there and some Joe Schmo was like, oh, I had an idea and I want to put it out there, they get so frustrated. So that's my own bias around it, you know, is that I could send someone to your free patterns very easily because I know how well written they are, right? But when they're picking them and they don't know you, and they don't know you next to somebody else who's never put a pattern out, and this is their first one, and there are no abbreviations or terms or even, you know, just even page numbers, whatever, they're just lost, you know? And so I spend an inordinate amount of time helping people who have started poorly written knitting patterns. And that is just my experience, and that's not everybody's experience. But so you are mostly a scarf, shawl, cowl, poncho, pontini,
pretty
hat,
much
accessory designer, and tons of beads, right? Tons of beads. Like you love a good bead project. And you have, I remember walking into a yarn over where you were showing people to put beads on their knitting, and people are like, oh, it's not that hard.
No.
Right? And then, and I think that's the thing about beads is that people should really shy away because they think it's going to be so hard to put beads on knitting, right?
Yep.
And you like a good sparkle.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, look at the beautiful necklace you have on. I assume you made that.
This is crocheted. This is my Bead Happy necklace. And I make kits, all different colors. And I brought you one.
And is that what's in that bag? But I've never crocheted a necklace. And so you sell the pattern and the kits?
Well, I sell it. The pattern comes in with the kit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And mostly only at my classes now.
Right. Yeah.
I had them on my Etsy shop, and I sold them all out. But then I stopped doing actual product sales
because shipping is just so.
Yeah.
It's just you got to keep track of all that.
I wind up selling them like as fast as I make them. Like I don't know.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I bet they're not priced to have you make.
No,
of course not.
I charge $20 for them.
Yeah,
they take a long time to put together because I don't want to sound pretentious, but I hand select, I curate all the beads, you know. So I'm going to do a greenish palette, you know, and then I pick all those out, and then I make a mix of the seed beads to go with. And this is just a multi one. This is all
but like
colors.
that's a $50 thing, not a $20 thing. I don't know that Diane values her beautiful work as much as I do, or others would. But I think that comes with getting to the point where you say, I know I want people to have to spend more, and that's hard. That's really hard, right? Especially when we have people who can't afford a pattern or yarn, or nice yarn, and the beginners don't want to spend any money on yarn or patterns, right? And so for me, they get yarn off Facebook Marketplace by the bag. And they bring in this stuff, and you're just like,
no,
oh dear,
dear. You need to support your local yarn shop.
I know, but see, you need to support your local designer too, you know. I just think we're really fortunate, for me, that I'm able to do it, but I'm not supporting myself. I couldn't live on what I make, you know, and no one could. I mean, but the big design, I mean, 2 of the big name designers, I don't know if they have retired their husbands. Their husbands are working as part of their business. Like that's how well they're doing. Yes.
Wow.
And that information is out there. But yeah, that's huge, right? If you are making enough to support
it would be
your husband and your family.
He keeps dreaming that dream.
Ross too. He'll say, honey, you work so hard at this and you make money.
Yeah.
But I do love it, right? We do it because we love it.
That's
but
right.
It would be nice to have a little extra compensation now and then. But that's why I eventually asked for people to help support this channel through Patreon. And I have some really lovely people who give me $2 a month or $4 a month so that I can pay for the fees just to, you know, to have the different things. But yeah. So let's talk about some of your designs. Should we do this one first because it's up here and it's new?
Yeah. It's Joyful Hope. It's sort of timely. It's happening right now, and it's just my little political. Please register to vote. Get out there, vote. Make your voice heard. There's a little story. I write little stories in my patterns.
Yes, you do.
Little intros.
I do that too, and I love that.
And I wanted to, you know, not be on a soapbox, and, you know, I didn't want to anger anybody, but I wanted to do something with my knitting and crocheting or whatever. So that's what I came up with.
And you named it what?
Joyful Hope.
I'll put all the titles down below. Okay. And it is a cowl knit on the diagonal.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
At first, and then it's like 5-sided.
Oh, okay.
Basically.
Yep.
And then it's seamed in the back. About
at
6
the back
inches.
neck. Okay.
Yeah, and then I finished it with a little picot.
Yeah.
And,
well, that little picot really matches now. I do this all the time, but I'm gonna tip it forward so people can really see because it's a lot easier that way to see. Nice. Yeah. So then that little picot really matches these little kind of areas. So, and you love a good texture and a good stitch pattern.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you say that most of your patterns are pretty advanced, beginner friendly, or
they're simple?
Yeah,
they're easy.
You don't throw a lot of weird construction or weird color work or something. I mean, other than the beads, which, but
yeah, I don't. I do a lot of stitch patterns.
Yeah, beautiful stitch patterns. But that's lovely for people to know, right?
Yeah.
Like for people to know kind of where that comes from. And this pattern is already out there.
Yep.
And so do you continue to make sales on older patterns? Because
I do.
I find some of my older ones just don't sell as often, but then occasionally
I'm not making a living, but once in a while there'll be a sale of something that was an older pattern.
Yeah, like in the
Ravelry they won't allow you to delete things. I mean, you can take the PDF down, but you can't remove the listing. So they're up there. So there's the ruffle phase. There's the all my old felting patterns from prior to 2008
when Ravelry, you know, when I finally got going, I put them all out there. They're all free. They're old. They're felting patterns. But when I first started, that's all that would come up. And I was like, oh, that, you know, that's just not the thing anymore. No. I haven't taken them down either. So this summer now, all these years later, I've redone 3 of the popular felting ones, because I thought at least I'll update those and make more sizes, take new pictures, and put those 3 out for, for sale. But because they're still there. We can make the listing inactive though, can't we?
Yes.
Go in and then, but I don't know. They don't really go away.
No, they don't. So, the core post of the picture, whatever the project is, still, you don't have the ability to take it away. Yeah. I don't know why, but I suppose they don't want people messing around in their database that much. Right,
and I suppose somebody would delete something and they didn't want it gone.
Yeah,
and then that becomes a huge... Okay, this is her new pattern that's going to yarn over tomorrow, right? Yeah.
It's going to Susie of Fiber MacGyver. This is her yarn, a Merino Sport. It's 2 skeins, about 550 yards, and a size 6 needle, and it's Madge-ical, and I spelled Madge-ical, MADGE-ICAL, because she is actually going to Rhinebeck with her Madge, her camper, full of yarn, and she's going to be a vendor there, and she's a vendor at Yarn Over tomorrow.
So anyway, I'm going to tip this.
So this is color Disco, and that's on her website available. She dyed up a whole bunch of it, and it was, she wondered if she could take it to Rhinebeck, and I said,
yeah, for sure.
That's like a bucket list thing too.
Yeah, that's.
So
have you ever gone?
No. Oh, she texted me yesterday and asked if I was. I mentioned something about dropping it off at Yarn Over, and she couldn't remember because she was involved with that other project.
Yes,
So she wondered if I was going to be there and bring it, because she wants to display it tomorrow. Yeah. So I'm bringing both of them.
Yeah.
And I figured out how she was going to generate a QR code.
Yep.
And this is color Brick.
So it starts out at the top with like basket weave, and then, or kind of, and that checkerboard, I guess. Yeah. And then it goes into textured stitches. Do any of them repeat, Diane? No, gosh.
Well, just
and then some drops. Part. Yeah, just the yarn overs.
This is an Estonian knitting thing. Somebody put a video out and showed this stitch pattern where you knit 3
that one. It's
yarn
really
over
pretty,
and knit the same 3 again.
Yep.
And you just keep going, and I call it the flower stitch or star stitch or something. Yep. She didn't know what the stitch name was, but she liked it, and she put it in some of her sweaters. It's a famous person. I don't remember her name though. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I said, I'm going to put that in there, because I was in the middle of kind of coming up with what to do there. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
you have the variegated one and then a solid one, which I think is nice to show people kind of, you know, what the stitch pattern.
This was the test knitter knit this one, and then my friend Gail didn't ask the designer's permission, so we were teasing her about that. She decided she was going to knit it with fingering weight and a size 8 needle. So she just took the same pattern and didn't change anything else but those 2 things, and she came up with a really nice version of this with 1 skein of fingering weight.
Did it start out, but did it end up bigger?
Because it was kind of looser.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was
nice.
stretchier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look at how pretty that is.
She added a couple of rows of a little sport weight in there, and she trimmed it with that at the bottom. She bound off with it. Yeah. So
that's super cute.
It can be done with fingering
as well. Okay, so here's her beaded scarf pattern. We have one in a blue here, and then this one in green. What's it called?
This is Laura Nelkin's. This is the project that made me want to knit with beads.
Yep.
I saw it on display at 3 Kittens years and years ago, and it's Laura Nelkin, Undulating Waves.
And she knits a ton with beads and does a lot of kits and different things. I just knit her little project bag that she had just recently.
Yeah.
I just knit that and put beads on it. Turned out really cute.
Yeah.
But, oh, that's really pretty. You have like 3, 2, 1 beads. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, 1, 1. Right. And this was some kind of silk yarn. Like I said, it came and went really fast. I don't know what the brand was. That's Misty Alpaca Cotton.
Yeah, I love the feel of beads around the neck, right? Like they're cooling, you know, and I have a fully beaded scarf that I knit many years ago, and it's just tons of beads, and I just love that around my neck. This just feels so nice. Yeah, when you put that on, that's so cooling.
Yeah, it does have that feel, for sure. I decided, I saw those little amulet bags at craft fairs years ago, and so I decided you could probably do that with knitting, and that's the Art Deco beaded scarf. Oh, this I wrote way back when.
Look at that. Oh, and the beads go up.
Yeah, and when I teach
high. Oh, that's so pretty. I don't think I've seen this one.
When I teach this class, this area here is where students can do whatever they want with the beading. They can just stop beading, or they can carry it through a little bit. One person decided to bead the whole length, and she was really sorry that she did because she kept having to buy more and more beads. And it was way heavy. But this takes about 80, takes 4 packs. Yeah, about 80 grams of size 6/0. I use Toho beads pretty much exclusively for a lot of reasons. The Toho beads are lighter, so it works with a lot of, they have a bigger hole, and it works with a lot of different weights of yarn, and they're lighter for this project. The Miyuki, the other Japanese beads, they're heavier. They have more glass. Okay. So they weigh the yarn down more. Okay. The Toho is a little lighter bead.
That's really good to know. Yeah. How do you spell Toho?
T-O-H-O.
Yeah. Okay. And where do you get your beads?
I have been using Bobby Bead in Minneapolis, and I still do, but there's something happening there. I don't know what, but because they sent me on to where they go to get beads sometimes. Oh, okay. There's 3 distributors in the country of Toho Japanese beads. I think they might, I don't want to say they're closing, but there's some change happening where they're not adding to their inventory right now. Okay. And my contact isn't there anymore, and so I'm
And are Japanese seed beads more expensive than a traditional glass seed bead? Yeah.
They are. They are, but you're paying for the quality because they're manufactured to be smooth inside and outside and uniform. And these aren't totally uniform, but they're more precisely sized than like the Czech beads. Yeah. The Czech beads are scratchy. You know, they can pull on your yarn and cut it.
Yep. I've had
beads. Slide. You can use from fingering weight, lace weight mohair through even Malabrigo Rios. I can string beads on. Okay. And Dream in Color, I did a project with beads on their worsted weight too.
And do you pre-spring almost always?
I had been, yeah. I do. Most of these projects are like that, but I like the crochet hook method too. So I do a workshop where I teach the different ways, including the crochet.
See, and I'm a super floss person. I use super floss, just exclusively. And but do you have like a bead spinner to get them on string, or do these come pre-strung so you're just sliding them over?
They're not pre-strung, and I use a floss threader to get them on. A down floss threader, but not a spinner. No. Yeah, I'm not sure. Would a spinner work with the 6/0 size?
Yeah, because you hold your hook right in there, and it jumps 20 on or so, and so
No, I haven't tried that, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I bought one years ago. I'm not a huge beader. I mean, I've done a couple projects with beads, but I have I have a couple of ideas going forward for some bigger beads on some things and stuff. But I usually just thread on 15 onto my super floss, and then, but I'm not doing this much beading on a project, right? Many fewer. But do you find that you're constantly pushing down then the beads?
And over time I've realized that it's more time, what do you call it? Time effective. To just use one pack at a time and cut the yarn and add more.
Yep.
Because when I did this, they told you to prepare for class by stringing a third of your beads on, and that was too much, and I didn't know what I was doing, and it was a lot to manage. And it's frustrating for somebody new. That's not a beginner project,
right?
For beading, so when I teach classes, I say we're going to do one pack at a time. I just did this class, and that takes 2 packs, but I had everybody just do one.
That's really pretty.
That I named after my mom and Elizabeth's mom, Jean's Cowl. It's called Jean's Cowl 2 because it's an updated version. That's a yarn that's made out of eucalyptus called myrtle. And
Look
it's
at
one
how
skein
pretty that is.
and 2 packs of beads just along the diagonal there.
Oh, that's really pretty.
Oh, thanks.
Do you just wear this single loop?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a necklace. Oh,
it's kind of,
it's really pretty. But the sparkle, you guys aren't seeing the sparkle as well. The sparkle makes this whole thing just lovely. Just lovely.
Thanks.
I haven't named something for my mother yet because I haven't designed something that I think that she would love. But I designed a shawl last year for my mother-in-law who had passed away, and her favorite color was pink. And she was always so proud of my designs and things. And so I decided that this shawl was pink. I got the yarn was from Lavender Loom, and I had said to Sam, I'll knit it up in a neutral, but can I also knit it in a brighter pink? And she's in a brighter color. And she said, pink is the only bright one in this palette. And I said, oh, that would be perfect. So, but yeah, I think that's nice to honor, someone that was in your life that, so that's really, really pretty. Okay, what do you want to show next? Oh. Yeah, I love the name of this one.
Hugging Again. And I wrote a little blurb about how my friends had a lot to say about what I was doing, and they had very constructive and very positive, wonderful things. And, we had spent a lot of time walking. I live right down the street from a park called Glover Park, and it's 44 acres, and most of the walking trails are up in the hills. And so we would get all the gear on in the wintertime and just hike and hike and hike. And we went to the state parks and hiked. And, we couldn't do much knitting, because we were still supposed to be masked and everything. And then we came out of it, and the first time we could be knitting together, I thought, I'm going to do something. And I came up with this. This is a cotton yarn. Was getting into warmer weather, and I just said it's nice to be hugging again,
Yeah. So she does have some beads at the top of this one.
Yeah, a little bit of beading.
There's a little bit of beading here and here. I'm gonna get it close enough, and then there's a little one right here, a little row. But again, just some beautiful little stitch patterns.
Oh, thanks.
Do you remember what this yarn is? Does it say on here?
I think it's an Araucania.
Yeah, it is. 2 skeins. Araucania Papagayo.
Oh yeah, Papagayo. That's right. I carried it for a couple of seasons. It just seems like yarn comes and goes so fast now.
I know.
By the time you come up with an idea for something, it's discontinued.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't know.
But I love that you knit with cotton, because I love knitting with cotton. It's
I do.
One of my favorites. I don't have any problem with knitting with cotton.
I don't either. I hear criticism about that, but I don't have that feeling. I really like doing that. Well, this started an idea that turned out to be a collaboration.
So this is a Noro cotton.
It's Noro. It's Noro Enka.
Okay.
And this came out a while ago, 2021.
Yeah.
A few years ago.
So
it started, I was going to do something wider, And I thought I had enough stitches, and I was, into the pattern about this far, and I kind of really liked it as a scarf.
Yeah.
But I called it a wrap because it could be,
Well, yeah.
So I don't know.
It's hard sometimes, yeah.
So my friend Carrie, she decided, oh, look how pretty that looks in the camera. It looks pretty.
No, it's really pretty.
She liked that same colorway, and she wanted to take that idea and make it into this, like a capelet kind of thing. And she said, well, what would happen? It was really kind of a collaboration. She said, what would happen if I did the decrease and increase the other way, halfway through the skein? And I said, you'd get a V shape. And so she did that. So halfway through the skein, she changed the order of the increases and decreases.
Yep.
And then
you seamed it in the front, kind of.
Yeah, the two edges on the inside, and she sewed buttons together. And it turned out to be cute as heck. And if I do say so myself.
It is super cute. And the yarn works so well with it because it's stripes.
Yeah, it's stripes up and down in the back, and it's on the diagonal in the front. And so we wanted to, I thought, well, we could do a summer, like a fingering weight version, a DK version, worsted version, and then Barocco came out with a yarn. And so we did 4 different types of that. And she came up with the same idea, but she just did a repetitive pattern. That's been one of our most popular patterns out there. So I give her credit for coming up with that, change of direction idea. And then she did the pattern so that it was
it's really cute.
Repeating. Yeah, everything I did with their yarn is on their website too.
Yeah.
I did this little presentation at the Knitters Guild. It was a volunteer basis, and while I was preparing for that, I said, I keep getting lots of people asking me, how to sort through Ravelry and looking for easy patterns. So I thought I'm going to put together just a folder of easy things.
Yep.
Easy. Here's an easy scarf pattern. This teaches you very basic shaping.
Right.
So that's what this is. Easy scarf.
Yep.
And Earth really liked it because it was at the time where they were just launching this self-striping cotton.
Yeah.
And they wound up taking it all over. And anybody who placed an order for it got 100 hard copies of the pattern. The PDF was out there. It was free for 5 years. And then I did something that I didn't ever think I would do. I decided to start charging for it.
Yeah.
$3 because somebody I know had a pattern that was really popular, and she had it for free for a long time, and then she did that. And she got a little bit.
Well, Diane,
back.
you put time and energy into writing this stuff, and there are people out there who are want to support you, right? Like I'm all about that.
I know.
So you should charge.
Thank you.
$6 for this.
No, $3. So their sales rep, they continue to give the patterns, the hard copy.
Yeah.
But she went to download it and saw that it was for sale, and so she called me and she goes, "We want to support our designers, so you should be charging all the time." So
Yes.
that was nice to hear.
You should. Yes. I'm gonna swing her, you guys. We're gonna swing Diane. Tell Diane in the comments down below that she needs to charge more for her patterns because they're beautiful.
Always telling me that.
They're beautiful.
That was fun. I strung on
I have the back side. Okay, we'll do that again.
Pack of beads and just started randomly placing them, just the turquoise beads, so they kind of blend in with the yarn a little bit. But so it's not too
I'm just going to show the shape of this. Here, you hold this.
It's an asymmetrical triangle, so you have a really long pointed part.
But those are so easy to wear.
Yeah.
I love wearing them like that.
And this is really comfortable. This yarn is really comfortable when it's this kind of like.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see the twist on that. It's really an interesting twist. Yeah, it's really. See how, like, it almost looks like it's overspun. It's not, but it's like really elasticy.
Yeah.
No, it feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's super simple. It's just one of my favorites. So.
Yeah, but people are always looking for one skein.
Yep.
Always. What
and
can
that's
I do with one skein?
so it's like $2.75.
More than once, yeah.
Twice around for sure. And this, I put the beads in sort of a Fibonacci numbering sequence. You know. No, it's not really terribly mathematical, but it's, you know, the Fibonacci numbers are.
Yep.
The next number is the sum of the two previous numbers.
Yep.
So that's in the bead positioning is in rows that match that. So it's really pretty. Playing with that idea for a while.
But this would be very repetitive, like, right? You would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're saying Fibonacci, it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be too hard.
Oh no,
no,
it's not hard at all.
It's really
and the
pretty.
beads are pretty strong. And it is Elizabeth's pattern. So one of the things is the people who work at the yarn stores, and it's a free download.
Yep. Oh wow. She should be charging for that.
People were asking me, how else can I put beads in my knitting? Because all of the ones that are pre-strung, really, they live between purl stitches.
Yep.
That's where they want to be. And so you can put them in if you're knitting something flat between knit stitches, but they're going to pop to the purl side. So they started asking me, you know, how else can we use it? So I came up with this pattern. It's called Makes Me Happy, because it makes me happy. And so they're placed between stitches here, like normal. And there's a bunch of different stitch patterns, and there's jogless stripes and that kind of thing. And here they're sitting on top of a knit stitch on a float, like on a slipped stitch.
Oh, okay.
And so you slide you slip a stitch and you slide the bead.
That one closer.
You slide the bead over, and then you knit the next stitch. So you've got a slip stitch, and the bead is sitting just on top of the fabric, basically. Yeah. And then the other one is when you've got beads that are on the strand, you have to, and you're going to pull it through onto the new stitch. It has to be on the right or the left leg. And so those beads are all, I think, on the right leg of the stitch. So that's 3 different ways that you can place the beads. In one cowl. Yeah,
it's really cowl. Pretty.
It's a lot of different stuff. But I did it in other yarn, cotton. That was the first one I did.
This would look really good with what I'm wearing today.
I think so. And I like Casapinka. She's nutty and fun, and she's got that alter ego cat thing going on. So I knit one of her guys. This is the Hug Shot, and of course I bound off with beads because, you know, I can't seem to leave the beads alone. I think this is the front.
Look at that. Yeah. You have the beads down here.
Yeah, I bound off with them, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's fun.
It was a
fun
one.
she's got some quirkiness to her, and I like that.
Yeah, I do too. She's a lot of fun.
Look at all these different stitch patterns. They're
lovely. There's quite a few. A lot of my samples are living at Knitting from the Heart, and some need to be picked up.
At Knit from the Heart, you teach this basket class that has been super popular, and the project is called. So what yarn is used? Because it's chunky.
It's Bobbiny. Bobbiny is the company.
Okay.
Really, literally like crocheting with a rope. Yeah. So it's hard to get used to at first, but I have not had anybody quit on me, and I've done about we don't even know how many classes, more than 10 classes of 8 people, and 6 to 8 people.
Does it take a few weeks when they come? It's just. Is it one class?
Some people get so far on it that they're almost done with it in the first class. It's a 2-class session.
Okay.
But and the handles were a touch that Elizabeth added to the basket, and I think the handles are really great. Yeah. Leather, and she's got some in the store.
Okay.
Other people have gone out to Amazon and they found handles that can actually go through the stitch and snap.
Oh, okay.
And those are kind of neat.
Okay. Then you also have this little basket that you've been teaching for a while. And I got gifted this by Bonnie. She made one.
Oh, yeah. She took my class.
Yeah, yep. And she gifted me one for my birthday last year, so I have it sitting in there. I love it. It's in my office. I'll have to take you in there, but
yeah, for sure.
So it's really cute.
That's one skein of Fantasy Natural by Plymouth. It's called a one skein basket, and it's been free forever, and it's still free pattern, and it's really fun. It starts at the bottom, and it's all done as a spiral. There's no chaining up to the next round, so you just keep going once you get your 72 stitches. So there's an increase, directions to increase row by row, and then use your marker. Use your marker all the time. Yeah. And then you make the handles. It's
super cute. It fits a skein of yarn just perfectly. A cake, because that's what I had in mind for a while. It was sitting by my chair. Yeah. But yeah. So, and you also teach
Tunisian
crochet.
It's a little coaster.
There's not anything that Diane doesn't do.
No.
So yeah. So Tunisian crochet. For people who don't know, I can put a picture in of what a crochet hook looks like, but it has a long cord on it, kind of attached. For people that don't know,
they came out with the interchangeable Tunisian hooks. So the Tunisian hook doesn't have that indentation for your thumb. It's just a straight shaft of the hook. It used to be that, I don't have any with me, but it used to be a long hook, about 17 inches, 18 inches. And that was the only game in town, or shorter ones. Now they have interchangeables, which work exactly like the interchangeable needles do. The hook screws into the cable, and you can get up to 47-inch cable. So now, sky's the limit with stitches. You can make Afghans as wide as you want. Yeah. So this is also known as the Afghan stitch. This is the Tunisian simple stitch, and I striped it with the colors. I'm making a set for home. Yeah. Placemats and coasters.
Yeah. So when you teach the class, do you just teach the stitches, or do you make something?
We make a couple of little washcloths.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I teach 3 different stitches in the class, sometimes 4. It depends on the class.
Yeah.
If they pick it up really fast, then I add a couple more.
Yeah.
But that's just the simple stitch, and we just do it with one color. Usually variegated it for the first class. And then the second class I teach the Tunisian knit and purl, and then we incorporate that into another little pattern that I made up.
So when did you learn Tunisian crochet?
Boy, that's a good question.
Because I feel like it came on the scene a few years ago and then got more popular. Like it was there, but I wasn't seeing it all the time. Now I'm seeing it more often, and there's a book that's come out, and there's been some things that have, but did you know it from way long ago? Do you think?
I think so, but I don't really know, to be honest with you. I knew of it. Yeah. My husband's grandma used to make Afghans, and she made quite a few. She would do strips and then crochet around the strips and then crochet them together and make Afghans. And she did Tunisian crochet, the Afghan stitch, because it's called the Afghan stitch too, the simple stitch. So,
so yeah, you probably
known about it as a kid at some level, but I don't think I ever made anything real with it. Yeah, just kind of messing around.
Yeah, but you would have had just a long needle.
I had those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I hadn't really heard of it. I don't think we shared this one, did we?
Oh no, not.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this is fun.
So
it's
that
kind of rainbowy. No, I just.
But Ella Ray, they came. This was a new yarn that came out in spring, and they said, "Oh wow, look at that yarn! It's so fun. It's so soft."
Yeah, it's really soft.
So I came up with this. It's 2 skeins, but the yarn manufacturer decided not to make the yarn anymore after this season. So.
But it's fairly heavy. Like it's not
worsted.
Okay. Yeah, worsted cotton. Yeah. So it would have worked up fast.
Yeah.
Because with the yarn overs in there, that's going to grow.
It's a asymmetrical triangle.
Yeah.
I did a version of it that I added to the pattern where I did a picot bind off and I did it in Malabrigo Rio.
I love a cotton, summer cotton. I should make a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is totally me. I could wear this just out today.
Oh, this is a project.
Juniper Moon.
That Elizabeth.
Zooey Stripes. It is a soft cotton linen blend.
Elizabeth has in her store a one skein. I'm making this wider and longer for me to make it bigger and adding beads on.
There they are.
In the store.
Oh, okay.
It's just a little throw over poncho. So I'm making mine a little bit wider, a little bit longer.
Okay.
Adding beads.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's fun. Yeah.
I think that's all I brought. I
Awesome.
have more, but
no. Oh no, I know you do. So Diane has 300 patterns out on Ravelry, which is incredible. I just reached the 100 mark.
Yay.
And I want to thank you so much for driving out and bringing all of your stuff. I just think you're truly a gift to the knitting industry. I know we don't run into each because we're kind of on opposite sides of the city.
Yeah.
So we don't run each in, and I don't have a local anymore because Lakeside closed. So, and they were my closest. They didn't have the biggest selection, but I could run there for anything. And they didn't really ever have a classroom. There really wasn't. I taught there a few times, but
no room.
There really wasn't a lot of room. So I just want to thank Diane for her time and energy today. And please go check out all of her patterns and buy them. Don't just take the free ones. All right. Thank you.